2 o'clock in the morning, my parents called and screamed Avery. Brayden is lying in the emergency room in Aspen transfer 15,000 right now. Or he'll be in pain all night and stuck with the entire bill. I looked at the streetlights shining through my window and replied in a voice so calm even I didn't recognize it. Call your beautiful little princess. I hung up, turned off my phone, and went back to sleep the first time in my life I didn't rush to put out a fire for them. The next morning, as sunlight spilled across the wooden floor, a call from the Aspen Police Department shattered that silence. They said one sentence that made me freeze, as if mountain wind had slapped me straight across the face. Ms. Avery, what happened last night is not the worst part. I'm Avery Caldwell, 33 years old, a structural engineer, and for years I've been treated like a breathing ATM for the Caldwell family. Since I was little, I was taught that the eldest child must carry the entire Caldwell household. I paid Brayden's tuition, bought Talia a car, cleared my parents' credit card debts. Every time they said, "You're the eldest," I carved out another piece of my life to hand over. But on that night at 2 o'clock in the morning, something inside me broke. And I could never have imagined that one simple no would make my entire family collapse in the literal sense. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching this video from and what time it is for you right now. I'm always curious to see which corners of the map my story has reached. Now, let's go back to where the truth first began. There are truths that do not make the heart heavier, but instead lift a weight we've carried for so long that we no longer realized it was there. That Vermont afternoon faded into shades of silvery gray, and Ava sat across from Reed in a small cafe in Burlington, a place where no one cared who she was or what anyone had done to her. Reed placed a folder on the table. He didn't speak right away. "Ava," he began slowly, "the results are in." Ava opened the file, her eyes scanning the cold lines of text. Charles and Vivian had used her name to apply for preferential credit limits. Part of that loan had been diverted into their personal transactions. But Ava did not legally stand as the responsible party for anything. Reed pointed to the final line. "Henry worked for weeks. He made the bank revise the entire record so nothing would fall on you." Ava froze, not because of the numbers, but because for years, she had lived as if she owed everyone everything. Reed looked at her over the rim of his coffee cup. "Ava, you were never a burden," he said softly, in a way that tightened her chest. "They only made you believe that so you wouldn't see your own strength." A long breath escaped Ava, not from exhaustion, but from a kind of release. She no longer had to brace herself. She no longer had to blame herself. The truth, finally, stood on her side. When Ava returned to the Pine Street studio, sunset cast a golden layer over the old window panes. A thin coat of snow clung to the sill, reflecting the warm lights inside the small room. She set her coat on the chair, standing still for a moment, just to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time, a silence that didn't frighten her. Ava opened the window. Cold air rushed in, brushing against her face. But this time, she didn't shiver. She stood firm, as if her own body recognized that it was finally time to breathe like a free person. Henry stopped by a few minutes later, carrying a still warm pastry. He placed it on the table, looking at her with the kind of gaze he reserved only for true family. "Ava," he said softly, "you have lived exactly as I always believed you would." The words tightened her throat, not from hurt, but from being recognized, for the first time, for her real worth. She sat at her desk, twirling a pencil between her fingers. The sketchbook lay open before her. Ava took a slow breath, ready to write the first chapter of the life she would choose for herself. It is never the first explosion that brings a bridge down. It is the tiny cracks formed years before, the ones no one bothers to see. When I was 22, barely long enough to frame my engineering degree, my mother called me back to Nevada just 1 year. Honey, the family needs you. The house in Henderson was bright, but the air felt heavy, like the dust coating the kitchen counter. I remember this clearly on the very first night. Brayden placed his University of Nevada, Reno admission papers on the table like a reminder I was expected to pay. I began working 3 jobs at once. In the daytime, I stood on construction sites in the 40-degree heat, inspecting column steel. In the evening, I carried trays at a bar, the smell of alcohol sinking into my shirt like fate. At night, I opened my laptop to do CAD freelance work, eyes burning but fingers still typing. I gathered 28,000 and transferred it in one go. My mother hugged Brayden and cried because her son was stepping into his future. My father patted his shoulder without even glancing at me. Talia snapped a photo for her story. Big bro on his way to greatness. And me, the one who paid, wasn't mentioned once. A year later, Brayden dropped out. The environment is too stressful. Sweetie, he's still young, my mother said, rubbing his back as if he had accomplished something. My father took him for steak to lift his spirits. No one mentioned the 28,000 I had lost entirely. That night, I sat on the balcony, desert wind blowing past, listening to the neighbor's sprinkler click on. I bit my lip until it bled. I thought, this must be the last time. But I didn't know that was only the first crack. Sometimes injustice doesn't arrive as something grand, but as the way people treat your sacrifice as your default duty. Talia graduated high school on a June day, so hot her makeup melted under the sun. After the ceremony, my mother called me with her familiar shaky sniffles. Avery, the girl deserves something special. Can you help, Mom? I was in Boulder then, standing on a partially finished rooftop. I looked at my lit screen, exhaled, and nodded again. 2 weeks later, I co-signed a white Jeep Wrangler, a 48-month loan, $480 each month pulled straight from my account. Talia jumped up and down when she got the car, hugging Mom, hugging Dad, thanking them non-stop, and me. She sent exactly one message. Thanks, sis. 3. That night, she posted on Instagram, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for my dream car." I stared at that caption as if cold water had been poured over me. When I asked my mother, she simply smiled. "You're the eldest, Avery. Helping your siblings is your responsibility." The word responsibility dropped onto my chest like unset concrete. Turns out, love in this family always came with conditions that I had to pay for. There are calls that make one thing painfully clear in this house. Their panic was always my responsibility. 3 o'clock in the morning. My phone rang nonstop, as if my Boulder apartment were being yanked back to Henderson. I hadn't even opened my eyes when my mother's frantic voice rushed in, breathless as though she were fainting. "Avery, help me. The credit card is locked. Brayden needs a new gaming setup to stream, and Talia has to buy things for tonight's live stream." I couldn't even get out of bed. My heart was still beating in sleep rhythm. But my hand had already opened my banking app, a reflex programmed into me for years. I transferred everything left in my secondary account. No questions, no conditions. My mother sighed in relief, said, "My daughter truly is a blessing," then hung up before I could respond. 3 months later, another call just like it. My mother cried like she never had before. Brayden accidentally bought expensive accessories. Talia needed to invest in her career. I transferred more. That night, staring at my black screen after sending the money, I saw my reflection exhausted to the point I barely recognized the person looking back. And only when I opened my Excel file, logging each payment, each rescue, did I finally grasp a simple, brutal truth. To them, I wasn't the eldest sister. I was the Caldwell Family Bank Unlimited, interest-free, and without the right to refuse. Sometimes you only realize you've been worn down when you see your own face resembling the person who's drained you for years. One night, after working until nearly midnight, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The white lights exposed my eye bags, and the tight press of my lips looked exactly like my mother's whenever she asked for money. A chill slid down my spine. I whispered, "Who am I becoming?" That was the first time I set a boundary thin, shaky, but real. I didn't know it would be shattered so quickly because of one trip. There are messages small like dust, yet they are the start of an entire storm. One early fall weekend, friends invited me hiking at El Dorado Canyon. I had packed my backpack, thinking I was finally going to have a rare day without a call from home. Then my phone lit up. Talia sent exactly 7 words. "Get ready for Aspen. The family needs you." I froze in my living room, fingers tightening around the backpack strap. When I opened that message, I had no idea Aspen Highlands would become the place where every crack in the Caldwell family collapsed at once. There are nights so quiet you can hear the sound of your own exhaustion. That evening, my Boulder apartment felt like it had stopped breathing. Warm yellow light spread softly across the walls. The window was cracked open just enough for the wind to carry the cold scent of pine through the living room. In that stillness, even the soft click of the heater felt like a reminder of the years I had tried to live 2 lives at once, one in Boulder, and one forever stuck in Henderson. I sat down on the floor, leaning against the sofa, too tired to think about anything at all. In that moment, I understood a truth I had avoided for years. I had been living to keep my family from falling apart, so much so that I no longer knew how to live for myself. That silence wasn't just quiet, it was weight, the kind of weight I had been carrying on my back since I was a child. I remember being 9, playing with my favorite puzzle set when Brayden ran over demanding it. My mother looked at me, didn't ask, just said, "Avery, you're the eldest. Let him have it." I handed the puzzle over instinctively, then stood there frozen, not understanding why I had to give up something I loved. When I was 12, I brought home a test graded with an A, excitement filling my chest, but my father barely glanced at it before saying, "Don't brag. Brayden will feel bad. He's struggling." The joy died instantly, like it had never been there. When I was 14, I had a fever so high my whole body trembled. But my mother told me to lie quietly in the corner because Brayden needed space to study. I lay there in the dark room, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, knowing that in this house my needs always came last. Those memories weren't loud or dramatic, but they created the script I unconsciously carried into adulthood. I must sacrifice. I must yield. I must carry the weight. And the worst part, I never asked why. People thought I was afraid of losing money. I wasn't. I was afraid that if I let go, my entire family would collapse. That fear clung to me like desert dust, layering, thickening, weighing me down. I tried saying no once when I was 17. I refused to give Brayden money to go out. My mother didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. My father looked at me as if I had betrayed the family. I learned that lesson painfully well. If I stopped, everything would fall apart, and it would be my fault. That fear followed me all the way to Boulder, living inside every unread message, every missed call. Even in moments when I felt my strongest, it whispered, "I'm not allowed to be tired." That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. Dark circles, slumped shoulders, the posture of someone who is always ready to carry. I realized I had been living like a bridge column bearing loads, silent, never allowed to crack. I placed a hand on my chest and whispered, like a prayer to myself, I have to live for me, even just once. It wasn't a fierce declaration. It was a trembling promise. But it was real. I had no idea that in just a few days, my phone would ring, and the boundary I had just built would be tested in a way I never imagined. There are messages that look harmless, yet open a storm you have no way of avoiding. That afternoon, Boulder was chilly. The last rays of sunlight stretched across rooftops, dusted with thin snow. I was making coffee when my phone lit up a single notification from Talia. Aspen Highlands. The family needs you. 7 words, small, neat, enough to make my heart skip a beat. I stood still, my hand resting on the coffee pot still steaming. No explanation, no context. Just the family needs you, the sentence I'd heard my entire life, each time tightening around my neck like a rope. A cold shiver ran down my spine, not from the weather, from instinct. The instinct that had saved me from many collapses only I ever saw coming. My instinct had never been wrong. 10 minutes later, I opened Instagram. The first story, Talia folding outfits into a suitcase, all designer brands, Gucci, Balenciaga, Canada Goose. Caption, Aspen mode. On second story, Brayden spinning the keys to a rental car, laughing smugly. Third story, the whole group stepping onto a private shuttle. Talia zoomed in on the logo stitched on the seats, flaunting luxury on purpose. Fourth story, unboxing a diamond necklace, hotel lights reflecting on her skin like a movie scene. I blinked. Designer clothes, champagne, private shuttle, Aspen Highlands Resort. Where did the Caldwell family get that kind of money? A mutual friend messaged me privately. Avery, they're spending like millionaires. What's going on? I didn't reply. I just watched the clips pass by, one after another, like water dragging me backward into every moment I had emptied my wallet to save the family and still been treated like it was nothing. My stomach tightened. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's the warning that something is coming. The Boulder apartment dimmed except for the blue glow from my laptop. Snow tapped against the window, each flake hitting the glass softly. I pulled a blanket over my shoulders and opened the newest story again. Brayden stood at a rooftop pool, jacket open, laughing into the cold wind. Talia filmed champagne pouring in slow motion, as if they were running an empire. Garrett shouted, "We own Aspen tonight!" I scrolled. Brayden threw handfuls of chips into the air, letting the wind scatter them like snow. Talia spun the diamond necklace in front of the mirror, the light blinding the camera. A reel appeared, the entire group dining in a VIP room, red wine, Wagyu steak, gold-plated dishes. I swallowed, a tight knot rising in my throat. They're living like royalty, with whose money I could hear my heartbeat in the quiet apartment. Not jealousy, but instinct. A dark, persistent instinct. I knew this would not end well. My phone rang just before midnight. Mom. Her voice was unnaturally cheerful. Avery, you have to see Brayden's new photos. He's being treated like royalty. The whole family is enjoying a rare vacation. I could hear casino music echoing somewhere behind her. Mom continued. Brayden deserves it. Honey, he's been trying so hard. I asked who was paying for the trip. Mom went silent, then said, Money. Let Mom handle it. But her voice trembled. Not the voice of someone who was handling anything. I didn't say more. But in my mind, one sentence rang loud and sharp. They are hiding something. I planned to turn off my phone and sleep, but a new video popped up. Brayden, inside a high roller room, face flushed, hands shaking, betting chips so recklessly even the dealer stared at him. Garrett yelled from behind, Bro's unstoppable. Talia filmed in slow motion. emphasizing the towering stack of chips. But I wasn't looking at the chips. I was looking at Brayden's eyes. And in one brief, fleeting moment, I saw absolute emptiness, the desperation of someone gambling with money they did not have. And I knew Aspen Highlands would not just be a trip. I had no idea that just a few hours later, a 2 a.m. phone call would destroy everything I thought I still had under control. If you're still watching this, tell me which city you're in. I want to know how far this story has reached. Everything that night began with one call, 2 in the morning, and someone crying on the other end. My phone vibrated as if it were about to slide off the table. Cold blue light sliced through the darkness of my Boulder apartment. I opened my eyes, checked the clock, 2:07 a.m., the name on the screen, Mom, Lorraine. I pushed myself upright, heart still half asleep but mind already predicting the disaster. I answered, Avery, do you hear me? Oh God, Brayden is in the emergency room. My mother's voice shattered like falling glass, choking, warped, frantic. He doesn't have pain medication. They won't give him anything because we haven't paid. You have to transfer $5,000 immediately. I didn't even have time to respond before my father grabbed the phone. Avery. Security at the casino broke his ribs. 3 of them. He's groaning every minute. Emergency care requires cash. You're the only one who can help. Behind them, someone cried out in pain. Nurses' footsteps pounded across the floor. The sounds cut into my ears like blades. I closed my eyes. One long, cold breath. Call Talia, I said, my voice so calm even I didn't believe it. Lorraine shrieked back. Call her. All she does is take pictures for social media. You are the strong one. You are the only one who can save this family, Avery. Please. I looked up at the ceiling, the street light leaking through the curtains, painting a faint diagonal across the wall. I knew this moment would change everything. I'm not transferring anything. Both ends went silent for half a second. Then my mother exploded. Avery, are you insane? Brayden is dying every minute. I am not transferring. I repeated it, each word freezing into ice. I hit end call. The screen went black. The apartment fell quiet, so quiet I could hear the wind brushing against the window pane. I placed the phone face down on the table, and for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I only felt empty, a kind of emptiness that felt like release. But I didn't know that decision would turn the next morning into a Category 12 storm. I woke at 8:32 a.m. The Colorado light was muted gray, like dust over glass. I stood, pulled the curtains, cold air swept in. My phone was still face down on the table. I flipped it over. 217 missed calls, 327 messages. I inhaled deeply. The first text from Lorraine. You're killing your brother. The next from Kenneth. He's asking why you hate him. My heart sank, but the pain wasn't sharp anymore. Just a tiredness that wanted nothing to do with any of this. Then I opened TikTok, and everything detonated. On my screen was Talia, mascara streaked, standing in a hospital hallway. My brother is lying there, groaning in pain, and my sister Avery. Caldwell refused to send $5,000. She makes hundreds of thousands a year, but lets him suffer because of money. She tagged my company, my city, my photo. Her voice trembling like she was auditioning for a low-budget Netflix drama. The video had 1.4 million views. Comments flooded. What a monster. Hope she rots. How can someone be this heartless? More messages from acquaintances. Avery. What's going on? I set the phone down. My chest felt like someone was pressing stone into it. But no tears came. There were none left for this family. I thought the online storm was bad enough. until the real calls started. My phone rang again. A Nevada number. I answered. Ms. Avery Caldwell. This is the credit cage department at Silvercrest Casino. The woman's voice was flat, emotionless. Brayden Caldwell signed a marker for $5,000 using paperwork with your address. I froze. You mean my ID? A copy of your driver's license. But the information was altered. We need you to confirm payment. I laughed, but the exhausted kind of laugh that has no humor left. That's not my signature. Not my responsibility. I hung up before she could continue. The phone rang again. Barton Memorial Hospital. Am I speaking with Ms. Caldwell? Yes. We can only give the patient minimum pain relief. No one in the family has enough money for the surgical deposit. The nurse's voice sounded worn, like she had delivered the same statement 3,000 times that day. Then more messages poured in. Garrett, you really are heartless. An old friend. Avery, is this true? Each notification slammed into my eyes like a door repeatedly hitting my head. I stood and made coffee. My hands trembled slightly. Only one thought circled in my mind. I got out, but they're still trying to drag me back into that pit. I thought those calls were rock bottom. But then the police called. 9:01 a.m. Caller ID South Lake Tahoe PD. I answered. Hello, Ms. Caldwell. This is Officer Ramirez. I'm calling regarding the situation involving Brayden Caldwell. His tone wasn't harsh, just the voice of someone who had seen too many repeated mistakes. Brayden is being held for fraud, using fake ID, and assaulting a casino security officer. I heard keyboard taps behind him. Bail is $8,000. The hospital needs another $6,000 to complete surgery. He said you always take care of it. I stepped onto the balcony, cold wind hitting my face. No, I'm not paying. A short pause. I understand. I just needed confirmation. He hung up. No drama, no threats, just facts. And those facts were unraveling everything my family had tried to hide. But I didn't know. The public fallout was waiting. And this time, not just one town, the entire country would witness the Caldwell family collapse. I thought I had finally stepped outside the story, until the entire country started talking about my name. That afternoon, while I was trying to focus on a half-finished design, notifications burst across my screen like fireworks firing in reverse. A bright red headline slapped into my vision. GoFundMe for Brayden Caldwell surpasses $40,000 in 6 hours. I opened it. A photo of Brayden on a hospital bed, bruised face, arms covered in IV lines, sat at the top of the page. Beneath the caption, "Family abandoned by sister, please help him." My full name was written openly. No blur, no censorship, no explanation. Comments scrolled endlessly. What kind of monster does this? She wouldn't pay $5,000. What does she do with her 6-figure salary? I'm in Chicago and heard this story at the office. Disgusting. Even a small Denver news site published Boulder engineer accused of neglecting brother in critical condition. I read each line feeling like I was watching someone else burn behind glass until I realized I was the one on fire. My phone buzzed. A coworker, Avery. Is this real? The news is spreading at work. I didn't respond. I just slid open the balcony door and let the cold wind hit my face, hoping it would quiet the feeling of being shoved into a corner by the entire world. But when I walked back inside, something worse awaited. Talia had just posted her second video. She tried to stay composed, but her swollen eyes and the hospital hallway behind her made it look like a documentary. My sister hasn't called once. Not a single message. I don't know if she even has a heart anymore. That video reached 2 million views in under an hour. But what Talia didn't know was that the attack she launched would make her own career collapse first. The next message came from GlowFit Apparel, the brand she flaunted constantly on her stories. We are temporarily suspending our partnership with Talia Caldwell due to family-related controversy causing negative brand impact. Another one followed. Pretty Skin Co. has terminated influencer contract with Talia Caldwell, and another Talia's account shows signs of sudden reach suppression. Possible shadow ban. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not joy. But I understood something. Social media has no loyalty, only traffic and scandal. A Reddit thread appeared. Influencers staged family drama to profit from GoFundMe. Over 500 comments. Some defended her. Others dug up old mistakes. Some posted screenshots of her flaunting designer items bought with mom's money. The Caldwell family was quickly becoming the traveling circus of the internet. Talia went live, sobbing. I just wanted to save my brother. Why is everyone attacking me? Comments flew like stones. You faked it. Your family spends money like water, then begs others. Stop acting. I put my phone down. I knew this was only the beginning of the public collapse. And when the court hearing came, I finally understood. My family had passed the point of no return. That evening's news announced the arraignment. I didn't go. I heard everything from a close coworker, whose friend worked at the courthouse. Brayden was escorted into the room, dark circles under his eyes. Wearing a wrinkled orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed in front, his walk unsteady, like someone who'd fallen off a cliff. My mother broke down crying the moment she saw him. Kenneth sat frozen, gripping the edge of the chair until his knuckles turned white. The judge read the charges in a flat tone: identity fraud, assaulting a security officer, using falsified documents to obtain gambling credit. No one breathed. In the back, a few strangers whispered, "That's the family from TikTok. Where's the evil sister?" The public defender leaned toward Brayden, whispered something. Eventually, Brayden bowed his head, voice hoarse. I plead guilty and accept mandatory treatment. The room fell so silent they could hear a pen drop to the floor. One witness said, "Your mother collapsed into her seat. Your father just stared into the void, like his soul had been pulled out of his body. And I, hundreds of miles away, sat in my apartment, quiet enough to hear each tick of the clock." That night, just as I closed my laptop, my phone lit up with a bank notification: assets belonging to Lorraine and Kenneth Caldwell are under review for seizure. I stared at that sentence for a long time. My family was truly falling apart. And the next morning, they would call me. For the final time. After the entire country watched my family collapse, I chose to do the one thing they never imagined I'd dare to do: disappear. The next 3 days passed in a strange kind of time, not fast, not slow, as if the world itself was holding its breath to see how much further the Caldwell family would fall. I left my phone on the table, face down, not opening a single notification. No more rescue calls. No more neighbors knocking with the latest gossip. No more videos of Talia sobbing into her camera. Only the bolder wind drifting through the window frame, brushing lightly over the scattered papers I hadn't finished. My mother sent one email, just a single sentence. Avery. The house is about to be taken. I read it, then closed it. No reply. Brayden was transferred to the state's mandatory rehabilitation center. The local paper wrote about the long downfall of a family living on delusion, accompanied by a photo of Kenneth in the courthouse parking lot, hand covering his face, Lorraine standing behind him like a shadow. Talia vanished from every platform. Reels gone. TikTok empty. Instagram wiped clean. Rumor sites said she was staying in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Denver, hiding from the backlash. I pulled the curtains shut, letting the room sink into a soft golden glow. For the first time in years, silence wasn't frightening. It felt like a door cracking open, inviting me to walk out of an old life. And that's when I understood. To truly live again, I had to leave the place that had suffocated me. I called a moving company on Thursday morning, no second guessing. When the first worker stepped into my old apartment, I simply said, "Take 3 boxes. Throw away everything else." I looked around and realized most of the things I owned hadn't been chosen by me. Clothes my mother bought. Decorations, Talia suggested. Stuff my family sent for convenience. None of it actually belonged to me. My new apartment was on the east side of Boulder, near a row of small shops and a trail that led straight into the forest. The balcony overlooked a mountain range layered in deep greens under the sunlight. I laid down a new rug, the soft, plush kind I'd loved for years, but never allowed myself to buy. I unwrapped a cream-colored ceramic lamp, placed it on the shelf, turned it on. Warm light spread gently, like a soft greeting. My old phone lay on the kitchen counter. I opened it, went into settings, and pressed one button. Delete eSIM. Remove number permanently. No fireworks. No rush of victory. Just a long breath released. Light, clean, like shrugging off a heavy coat that smelled of someone else. Standing in my new apartment, hand resting on the cool white stone countertop, I thought for the first time in years, this is my life. I thought I'd feel anger, but what appeared was something entirely different. That first night in the new place, I turned off all the lights except the soft glow of the ceramic lamp spilling across the floor. I sat against the wall, wrapped in a fluffy blanket, listening to the steady hum of the heater, like the quiet breath of a safe room. I waited for anger, waited for resentment, waited for the urge to scream or break something. But nothing came. No hatred, no bitterness, only lightness. As if the weight of 32 years of being the one who carries everything had finally been lifted from my shoulders. As if every bruise inside me finally had space to breathe. And I realized something. Not seeking revenge didn't mean I was weak. It meant I refused to let them drain me any further. And then, in that stillness, I knew the final thing I needed to do. The next morning, I opened the balcony door, letting the Colorado cold weave through my hair. Sunlight poured over the distant mountains, making the whole city look freshly washed after a night of rain. I made a cup of coffee, sat in the new wooden chair I'd picked myself, and looked down at the path that led into the forest. No more ringing phone, no one left to save, no one demanding sacrifice. Just me, and a life finally unfolding. But there is one more thing I need to tell you before I close this story. One morning, I stood in my new apartment as sunlight spilled across the floor, drawing a new boundary in my life once more. I realized for years I had lived to please others, lived inside a mold built from expectations and guilt. But when the last rescue call from my family finally went silent, when the quiet settled over me like a soft blanket, I could finally hear my own voice. I didn't win against anyone in this story. I simply chose not to lose myself again. If you're hearing this, and you see a piece of yourself somewhere along my journey, I want you to know, you are not selfish for choosing peace. Boundaries aren't walls. They are how you protect the most honest part of yourself. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to walk away from the place that makes you small. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Thank you for staying with me through the end of this story. If you've experienced something similar, feel free to share. I read every message. Don't forget to like and subscribe so I can keep telling you many more meaningful and heartfelt stories. See you in the next one.